What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another game development live stream where we're in our game design in practice series where we're going to be stepping into our project Echo, a game that we're developing in Godot, and just primarily focusing on game design and just the design aspect of the project and kind of focusing on those kinds of topics, nothing with the implementation phase at this moment. So today we're going to talk about a couple things. We got some feedback from a friend who I asked for feedback on their game design document. I kind of want to address these points of feedback, add that to our document. I also want to do a little bit of research on game design pillars, really how to focus in on those pillars, try to make those pillars for our project. And if we have some time, we'll go ahead and jump in and try to write a review for Celico. For those who are not familiar with Celico, it's like not a boomer shooter kind of game, but kind of is. It was built, I believe, with a Doom or Quake engine, whichever one it's called. I think it's the Doom engine. I think that's what it's called. Really cool, really interesting, and I thought it'd be fun to write a review for that we can then post on our Discord under our games you've played. I kind of want to make it the first post. I think that'll be fun to do and set up for everybody. So let's go ahead and get started. So we have our main game design document, and our buddy was able to give us some constructive feedback on how we might want to expand this document, make things a little bit more clear. So that's what we're going to focus on first. So they say, so I love the concept of this mechanic. So basically we're talking about using fear and utilizing the scream mechanic to navigate and to see the environment, use echo replication. So that's the mechanic that we're talking about. Players need to rely on sound, navigate positive through all self-generation or through level ambience, game controlled. I'm really interested in reading more. Some brainstorming questions running through my head are: does this main threat in this world respond to this mechanic? More sound, more visibility, and more danger? What form will this main threat take? Enemies, obstacles, both. So it's definitely a very good question. And I'm not sure where I should write about this. So there's primary mechanics and secondary mechanics. Maybe there should be like a third section, like enemy and environment design, or enemy environment obstacles, something of this nature. So we'll write something like that. So enemy and environmental obstacle mechanics, I suppose. Is it a heading 2? I think that works, yeah. And then we could do so environment obstacles, enemy design. Like, obviously, I don't think this document should serve as a means to fully flesh out and design what these obstacles will be or what these enemies will be, but at least to kind of talk about, you know, what we're kind of aiming for. So one of the main hazards that the player will face is those posed by the environment. These hazards can range basically I want to say like they can range anywhere from, I'm assuming just like bottomless pits. I'm not too big of a fan of a bottomless pit, but maybe if we do things interesting with this echoes and stuff like that, echo relocation, stuff like that, you should be able to tell what's a bottomless pit, what may not be. So anywhere from a bottomless pit to environment pieces that can crush the player. Environment pieces include, but are not limited to, large rocks, heavy machinery, falling obstacles, etc. Buongiorno, how you doing? How's it going, Casper? So yeah, so that we got the environment obstacles. I kind of want to link this to this as well. It should be clear that an obstacle is a threat and nearby. The player should not randomly be crushed and learn to navigate solely by memory of these obstacles. Yeah, all right, thank you. Hope you're doing great too. I am doing pretty good. Today was a decent day. You know, work hard, play hard. I was glad yesterday I was able to beat Celico. Hopefully we can talk about that on stream today. It's a pretty fun game. But yeah, I want to address these points of feedback. If you're also interested, Casper, in anything I'm doing here with this game design and this project, like if you're interested in reviewing the game design document, if you have any thoughts or anything to share, feel free. I can ping you, give you access if you want. More people to check it out, the better. But if you're cool with just watching, giving feedback through the stream, you can do that as well. Okay, cool. All right, then I'll hit you up later. But for the time being, if you have anything to talk about with regards to this project on stream, feel free to share anything there. So yeah, enemy design. So I'm listening in the background today, doing some home renovations. Oh, cool. What are you working on? The other hazard that the player will face are enemies within the environment. Holistically speaking, enemies should also be blind and rely on the sense of sound to both navigate and to find. So to navigate the environment and to hunt down the player. Painting rooms. Oh, okay, yeah. Painting rooms, that's tough. Hopefully you have enough air circulation and you won't suffocate in the fumes. So enemies will not always be present within a given level, and the type of enemy can also vary. Enemy design specifics are to be determined, but must follow the rule outlined above. I think that should be okay. Can I link this in a... So I can comment. Can I get a link or something? I'll just do a reply. I have added a section enemy and environment obstacle mechanics to very briefly touch on how I may want to use them as the main threat against the player. Let me know your thoughts. I will be diving deeper into these aspects as separate one pagers later down the line. Boom. Okay, first one addressed. So this is such an important point for a game like this. So we're talking about if the player should know what is making the sound without explicitly seeing what it is. This is such an important point for a game like this. When a sense is removed from the player, they need to be able to confidently lean into another sense to not feel frustrated. Unfortunately, I'm not the best with sound design, but I think this might be an area where it would benefit from doing some research beforehand. Also, what type of sound presentation are you thinking about using? 3D sound, spatial sound? Totally fine if you aren't sure yet, but it would be fun to play around with. Honestly, I'm not too good with sound, so I don't really know what is the difference between 3D sound and spatial sound. Are they two different things? So 3D sound usually implies the perception of point sources in 3D space. Could also be a 2D plane, whether the audio reproduction is accomplished with loudspeakers or headphones. Spatial audio is broader, more inclusive in scope, and includes the possibility of environmental sound, multi-loudspeaker system. I think just because of the way we want to do the mechanics of being blind, I think 3D sound. So like you'll hear stuff more on the right side versus the left side. I think that could be interesting. Since we want to lean a lot into the feeling of being blind, I would it should be emphasized in the sound design. The best option would be to use 3D sound, which can also be translated to a 2D plane for our sounds. This way, players can use these spatial clues to know where certain things are. Even if we do rely on the visuals of echo relocation, it will bring the whole mechanic. It'll bring together the whole feeling. So I'll add this as a comment, but I'll also just write it there. Boom. So gameplay overview. While I can infer what these are from your document, I find it can be really helpful to clearly state the win conditions and lose conditions of your game. You can frame the win and lose conditions as primary goals or success failures too. Okay. Good point as well. So yeah, the win condition and lose conditions, I wouldn't say it's tricky, like, because without really explicitly knowing the story that I want to tell, like, the win condition is like surviving, getting from point A to point B within a given level, and I think that's valid. So I'll add another section here. Win and lose conditions. But especially the lose conditions, I think, is very important to define. Like, I don't really want to create any sort of health system for any of these possible enemies or the character. I kind of want there to be like an explicit, like, if you get, crushed by something, you get crushed by something and you lose. If you get caught by this enemy, you're done. If these enemies get caught into traps or environmental hazards, they're done. Stuff like that. And I think that'll save us a little bit of development time on trying to figure out how to do health. And like, obviously health is not too bad, but managing health, tracking health, balancing health. I think it's something we can just avoid entirely, and I think that will be to our benefit. So yeah, that's what we're going to write here. So the primary goal in win condition for the player is to reach point A, is to navigate. There's only black screen for me. Hi, by the way. I don't know what you're talking about. The stream looks like it's fine for me playing back. But hi, how's it going? So the primary goal and win condition for the player is to navigate from point A to point B in any given level without being, I don't want to say killed, but I guess that's the way I have to phrase it, without being killed by either environmental hazards or enemies. Primary lose condition is that the player is killed by an environmental hazard or an enemy, or otherwise does not successfully navigate from point A to point B within a level. I think that's simple enough. I think that's gonna work for this project. I, again, don't want to overscope anything. I think this makes perfect sense. So progression, will the game be level based on checkpoints? What would the core gameplay loop look like? Will there be an upgrade system or stay minimalistic skill based? How do the players lose? Is it when they're discovered by a monster? Do they have a health bar? Is there permadeath or lives? All good questions. So I gotta address, guess I should try to address as many of those points as possible. Primarily, yeah, so progression, I don't know what progression would look like just yet. I don't know if there really needs to be one. So that's going to be an open-ended question for now. What does the core gameplay loop look like? I'm also kind of debating if we, like, I feel like if I'm still wondering how the fear gauge is actually going to work, how it fills up. Is it just filling up over time? Like, in order for the fear gauge to increase in acceleration, is that part of the core gameplay loop? Like, do we have to always have an enemy present somewhere so that you become fearful for them? Or is this like screaming mechanic from the fear gauge driven somehow some other way? I'm going to write a section for core gameplay loop. There is no explicit health bar or damage systems necessary. There is no damage systems. I guess that's a full sentence, right? Upgrade systems. Okay, it's a problem on mobile. Stream is fine on PC. Okay, good to know. Thanks for following up on that. So yeah, I'm missing a good amount of stuff, you know, from the feedback. So player progression, core gameplay loop, upgrade systems. These are things I'm not 100% sure, and I should really think more about it. Because again, you know, we really just have a primary mechanic to be able to generate sound. Right now is based off fear, to be able to echo relocate and see what the environment looks like for a couple of seconds. Maybe there could be progression for how long things are visible for. But again, you know, if you're able to see the environment the whole time, you know, that can kind of detract a little bit from the game feel and being, you know, having to navigate through the environment. Like, it's like this shout should really be only something you use every so often. It could also be used to like stun enemies. It could, like, if you use it, they're able to find you quicker. Maybe things like that. But again, if it's being based on fear, that's still not something I'm 100% sold on. And I want to kind of think about it more. Like, inherently, yeah, I guess it's built on fear because you're someone who's blind in an environment they're not familiar with. Maybe on, you know, every time you die, your fear gauge also fills up a little bit. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure what are the means for this gauge to fill up. And I have a Miro board that I have to start thinking ideas on that for. So we're just going to kind of leave it as is. I'm going to add bullet points for player progression, just so we have some ideas written down. We can always come back to it. Oops. Do I just write something like that? Yeah. So ways to increase the rate of fear gauge. Generation? I'll put these all in questions because I'm not 100% sure. Because again, if the players are using the fear gauge more and more often, there should be a reason. There should be a reason not to use it. Like, if you use it too much, maybe this is when like an enemy comes in. So say you're navigating an environment, you know, it's all just whatever. Maybe the more sound you make with this fear gauge, then that's when like the enemy will come in, and then if you keep using it, they'll find you, they'll track you within the environment, you know, you'll be able to see where they are. I just wonder how we'll kind of balance, like, you scream over here, will they like immediately kind of go to that position? Not immediately, but you know, they'll slowly navigate to that spot. If it's something they can navigate to, can we just allow enemies to circumnavigate the environment in different ways that the player cannot do in order to reach these positions faster? So if you were to scream up on a platform, would the enemy be able to like quickly just jump up and get there? And if you don't immediately drop back down and kind of move away, they'll catch you and things like that. So yeah, I'm curious how that could potentially work. Like, I want that would be an interesting way. Like, this, there is like an omnipresent enemy that's there looking for you in each level, and you only kind of provoke it with the sounds that you make with this fear gauge. But then there's a whole thing about how do we teach this mechanic? How do we tutorialize it? Maybe within the first level, we show you the fear gauge, we tell you to use it, and when you use it, an enemy appears, and then we just say, hey, when you use the fear gauge, an enemy shows up, he'll track your position, or he'll be on the prowl for X time, and if he can't find you, he goes away until you reach until you use the fear gauge again. Maybe. But I would also like there to be, maybe, like, if you do provoke this enemy, there should possibly be ways to slow them down in a sense, or prevent them from reaching you, stun them, make them go away, or something like that. Distract them, I think, would be an interesting thing. Push a crate off a platform, generate a lot of sound on the bottom. It goes there to investigate, and you can sneak past or something. Or push a crate, lands on the creature gets stunned, using environment to do something. So that's gonna be more, it's gonna be very intense level design. We have to start defining what these objects are that you can manipulate with the environment to produce sound, or to stun the enemy, distract the enemy, what have you. Maybe, I don't know if we want to include this within the upgrade system. Do you want to be able to use the fear gauge thing, or scream, shout, because you have the full gauge bar. I'm curious, did I write this? So can you only use the fear gauge when it's full? Do we want to allow subtle uses of the fear gauge to kind of make tiny screams that kind of subtly echo throughout, so you can get a sense of a little bit of what's going on? Does that count towards it? Is there a cooldown, or is it you have a fear gauge, and no matter where it is, if you use it, it drops all the way back down, and you have to wait for it to recharge, and then if you save it up all the way, you get the most impactful sense of the environment, maybe longer cooldown, but also that's when that's when the enemy comes. And a lot of just random thinking out loud on what could be most interesting. But that's really a really powerful way, that's the power of asking questions within the game design document. Really gets the thoughts going, and I think that's the point my friend made. So I definitely want to write that down. Everything I just said. Do we want to say anything for increased movement, improved echo relocation, sense, duration, visibility, things to kind of question with that. So yeah, core gameplay loop. I assume we would probably want to draw a diagram of a loop. But yeah, upgrade systems, I don't know. Player progression upgrade systems, I think, could be one thing. Because again, yeah, the threat should rely on sound. But the threat shouldn't just be able to see you and just mess you up. I think it has to have the same handicap as you. Just be in terms of that. They should potentially be able to move faster than you. You should be able to outsmart them. I would want the player to be able to jump. But do I want them to be able to jump over an enemy? I don't know. Potentially, you climb up onto a box and then you jump over, I think is a valid maneuver. It really just, again, depends on the level design and how we want to kind of set that up. So let's break down what we think the player is gonna do. So the player enters a level, and again, I want this to be level based. You get from point A to point B. It's a puzzle platformer with this included element, needing to navigate the environment, to use the fear gauge, to shout if you need the help to see more. If you're able to navigate the environment, without needing the fear gauge and to scream to show the echolocation or anything like that. Maybe that's fair, and then maybe you never run into this enemy threat. Like you'll still see like the environment threat. Or if you do make too much noise just in general, like if you do push an object off of a large platform or something, it'll draw the creature in. I just don't know if do we want to give the player agency on whether or not this creature is going to show up, or do we want to have narrative reasons for this creature to show up, or both? I think that's a big question, because that's going to be potentially part of the gameplay loop. And also, like, how do we communicate to the player where their goal is to reach within a given environment? Also a pretty big question. Maybe give player an alternative to orient him or herself. Knocking the objects also reveals parts of the map, just as I've had in the fear gauge. Yes, I think that's a very, very good idea, to use the environment to see different parts of the environment, like you're saying. Knock down a crate, or to, I don't know, like it has to be like a mixed bag of different things. Like, again, it also, like, it depends on the environment, it depends on the level design, because like for me, what I'm thinking in terms of environment is very attuned to Inside. I don't know if you played that game. But like, I would like to see like a combination of indoor and outdoor environments. I would like to lean into the very mechanical, very factory, very science-y environments, but I also would like to see outdoor environments work in different ways. Like, I think it would be kind of cool if, you know, as you're walking through, you know, you're rubbing against brushes and they kind of show a little bit of information there. Or if it's raining, you can see a lot, like on the ground, like you can kind of see outlines of where the drops are hitting, and you can kind of get a gauge of the general shape if there's like a building or anything in front of you. You know, if thunder happens, you know, you can just kind of briefly see like the environment. I think there could be cool opportunities for like jump scares and just interesting things to happen. And I want, like, I'm still also, you know, because we can rely on the environment, I wonder if the player really needs like a scream, like fear gauge. I think it's still a cool mechanic to do. I think it should be like a last resort, but I'm still not 100% convinced on kind of where to use it. I want to add Inside as a reference. I think that's how you spell Celeste. So Celeste. Oops. What's the name of this game? Galaxy Wars? Geometry Wars. And the only reason why Geometry Wars is a reference is because you have this like these pulse bombs and these pulse abilities that kind of warp the environment, and it kind of shows you the grid underneath. And I kind of want that to be the effect that happens when you can hear things. Like you just see like a subtle warping of the environment, distortion of the environment that kind of shows you these outlines. I don't know. I don't want to play too much with color. That's why things like Perception, this other game, is a reference. Maybe we want to go with this kind of color scheme where you kind of just see outlines like a light bluish and darks. Not 100% sure. But something that just to drive the art direction, you know? So that's a Limbo. Limbo is also a good reference. You know, it's just using silhouettes. I kind of want to play with that. Oops. Sorry about that. That was me. Gotta mute Facebook. My bad. My bad. Oh my god. I keep getting brought back up here. I don't want to keep getting this website's killing me. All right, so I'm gonna oops. Can I cut this? Alright, I'm just gonna delete that. Can I add it back? No. Let me get the thing back here. So inside, boom. Very painful to work like that, my bad. And then yeah, we got oops. Hide preview. That keeps bringing me back up there. I'm so frustrated. But yeah, we're definitely nowhere near the end of this. For some reason, while I listened, I've also recalled endoparasitic, like from your descriptions. Let me look. I've never heard of this. All right, there's a cool release trailer. Give me a second. I just want to. Can I, for the love of God? Perception. Damn, there you go. Show preview. We're good. Loose association. Let's see. Oof. So you're just dismembered trying to look around. Yeah, I can see what you mean. There's like a, you know, fog of war style thing. Oh, that's interesting. That's how you reload. Oh, that's wild. And you have to like, I don't know, stop yourself from bleeding out or something. You got your brain, and then oh, so that's a parasite in you. That's pretty brutal. The reloading's pretty cool. Okay, and then you have like some light grenade thing. Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool. You know, why not add it as a reference? So endoparasitic. That cool. Thanks for the suggestion. Maybe worth playing, I'm not sure. So yeah, definitely need to think about this more. And we'll come back to it, I think. Just because we're about 45 minutes in. I kind of want us to kind of jump into the next topic with like the design pillars. So I want to make sure we write those down in. And that'll be for the best. So, now I'm familiar with design pillars, but I don't know the explicit, like, not formula, but like outline that a design pillar needs to really have. So I want to do some research on that, but let me go ahead. Add a new doc. Call this, so project Echo design pillars. So add, I don't need to add anything. Blank page, yes. So let's look up, so game design pillars. All right, sorry for the sudden brightness. Is there an extension for just like permanent dark mode? I can maybe view on GitHub. Yes. Okay. Just so we're not looking brightly into something. And I'll zoom in. Hopefully you will be able to see it. And for this section, I'm just going to lower the music a little bit so we can read this together. So I am Oriel Didio, student of the Bachelor's Degree in Video Games by UBC at CITM. This content is generated for the second year subject, Project 2, under supervision of lecturer Ricard Pelosu. So what is a game pillar? Every time we begin a game design from zero, we need to establish a few parameters that delineate and guide the process of design and production. These parameters are known as the game design pillars, and they are fundamental basis of video games. Of course, every different game has a different set of game pillars, depending on the type of material that designers want to make. But we must take into account these pillars we must take in account that these pillars will be the characteristics that the video game will take more in consideration in the production and design of itself. In conclusion, they are about 3 to 8 primary and fundamental concepts that our game wants to explore and be based on. Also, they must be respected and fulfilled once they are established. Okay, so there is a link to more. So Gama Sutra. I don't know if you, now it's gamedeveloper.com. Jesus. All right, so it doesn't look like the article they linked is a thing anymore. So we'll just kind of move on. So what good does it do? Game pillars are essential in every video game for many reasons. They help your team to understand how the project will be developed and make more easy and accurate their They help your team to understand how the project will be developed and make more easy and accurate their compression about how it should be done. That sentence doesn't really make sense to me. Maybe I'm crazy. These issues and aspects are useful to create a cohesive project and delimit it. They are our first and last step for the game design decisions. So yeah, obviously you need a set of pillars, like he's saying. I don't know if the standard is 3 to 8. I don't know how many this Project Echo will have. I'm assuming somewhere around 3, just because of how small scope it is. But maybe we'll find more. But again, if we don't need to have a lot of pillars, we shouldn't have a lot of pillars. We should only have the number of pillars that we think are necessary in order to inform our design decisions that make sense for the game that we want to create. That's just, in essence, that's all we're trying to do. So we have some examples. As we said before, all video games developed have their game pillars. There are some ones here. So The Last of Us, crafting. So along the video game, there are a lot of abandoned objects for all the map. We're making good progress. Crafting with this dump objects if necessary. So they got crafting, story, AI partners, stealth. So as the oh my god, no offense to this guy, but the English is a little rough. Isn't it that even for triple games, you should have up to 5 pillars? Just a side note, having more than 6. Personally, I don't know. With Outriders, I can't even remember what the design pillars were. I'm sure they showed it to us, but I can't remember. For my previous project before that, Aquanox, I also can't remember what the game design pillars are. With the new Witcher, I know what the game design pillars are. I'm not going to share it, but I know what they are. I'm not going to share how many there are, just in case. But yeah. So I don't know if there's an explicit rule of thumb for the number. I guess as long as something's not missing, and I guess that's really up for the game design director and I guess the leads as a whole to determine if there is something that's missing, So there is a Max Pierce article. So again, out of date link. Yeah, as long as they also make sense. So Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So exploration, players are encouraged to explore by being able to go into any area they wish whenever they wish. Movement, Breath of the Wild offers so many modes of transport. Moving through this world is made into a fantastic experience through the diversity and fun of the movement in the world. Scavenging. Players are constantly needing to go through the world and search for items from weapons which break after a few battles, so the food players must use to regain health or help them traverse. Options. This game is praised all around for a number of options that are given to the player, from multiple ways to solve puzzles to the combat scenarios or how the player makes their way around the world. I feel like Tears of the Kingdom makes more sense, but maybe that's why Tears of the Kingdom is a good sequel. Personally, I didn't really like Tears of the Kingdom. I didn't beat it. I stopped playing it. I played and beat Breath of the Wild, but for some reason Tears of the Kingdom really didn't hook me in the same way. Maybe it's because I just got caught into a certain section that I just didn't want to deal with anymore. Maybe that's it. I think I was stuck in that desert area and I was like, fuck this. Maybe I'll go back to it, maybe not sure. So let's see. Crypt of the Necrodancer. So music and rhythm. The essential mechanic in this game consists in the following of the rhythm. In following the rhythm of the music, items and weapons. So Crypt of the Necrodancer has a giant variety of weapons and items. Each one is different, unique, and have a special way of killing enemies. From bosses to minions, this game has a huge amount of enemies with different skills and movements. Every level has their set with a giant variety. Undertale. Narrative. Even if it doesn't look that way, the most important in Undertale is not the tale, it's the way how it's told. The rhythm of dialogues, events, music, this all make an incredibly gameplay experience, fixing the narrative as the core of the game. Combat. Part of solving puzzles The combat is a very important mechanic in this game. It's made by turns and have more action than it first appears. Characters. During the game, the player will meet a lot of different characters, enemies, bosses, NPCs, blah, blah, blah. Choice. Undertale is a game that gives you the chance of forgiving every beaten enemy. This choice determines the story and what kind of player you are. Yeah, I did play Undertale. That was pretty good. Also, there are some studios that have their own game pillars for all their video games. Paradox Interactive is an example. That's interesting. So Paradox game pillars. What makes a game a Paradox game? I mean, can I get some examples of Paradox Interactive? So studios, so video games. None of these seem very familiar. But they're pillars. Replayable. One does not simply finish a Paradox game. System-driven games with challenging sandbox environments make for unique game sessions each time you play. Intellectually challenging. Paradox games are played with your mind, not your reflexes. Incredible depth and a balanced learning curve come together to reward players' curiosity, creativity. We want our players to create and share their own stories from our games, not just the stories we imagined. The game should encourage creativity and experimentation and should lead to personal and memorable stories. Form follows function. At Paradox, we use visuals to complement gameplay, not gameplay to show off visuals. Paradox is function and form in sensible symbiosis. Accessible, this game takes time to master, but each game is still enjoyable. Players don't stop playing our games because they're too intimidating or punishing. Nerd out, regardless of what the game is about. There's always more to discover behind the scenes. The player can always dig deeper into the subject matter of the game, even when they're not playing. So how can we fix a game pillar? So the process to fix a game pillar into a game is quite simple. However, we must be careful. Here you have one method for choosing wisely. First, if you don't have any ideas about how the game will be, you could do a brainstorm, writing down the maximum concepts about how your game can be. 2, then when you have a list, you must arrange all these ideas into 3 blocks before playing. It is for all concepts that a future player will take into account before playing. Appearance, themes, art, in-game. This involves all the players will be doing when playing. So before playing, it is for all concepts that a future player will take into account. In-game, all the gameplay mechanics after playing, the ideas related to replayability. 3, then you must pass each concept in for these filters. I don't know. Do we really agree with that? Like what are some of the examples? So choice, I guess, is something after playing. Narrative, maybe. I'm not fully agreeing with that. 4, finally, you should ensure yourself that your ideas are original. There's a game that have worked with all your game pillars before, okay? I mean, even if you share some, like, if it's every single game pillar, maybe that's problematic. But if you share like 70% of the same DNA, I don't think that's much of a problem. It really just, I guess, depends. So note, at least we must have from 3 to 8 pillars. If we have too many, we can feed up the player. If we have too many, we can, I guess, fed up the player. Also, if we have pillars in excess, we will take the risk of saturating our development team with work. Makes sense. So bad game pillars. So after talking about what game pillars are and how we can fix them, we also have to say that there are some bad ideas of game pillars that we have to avoid. Here are some. So empty words, concepts like make a funny game, or a game that sells itself, or some of the worst in the game design. All pillars must have one solid answer for how can we do it. And if this answer is something similar to I don't know or doing it, we have to start thinking about other game pillars. Tasks, another bad decision in establishing a task as a game pillar. Game pillars must be simple. It must be a simple word or concept that synthesize an idea but never a task. Pillars like an accessible minimap focus the attention on something that must be a specific element of the game and harm the global design. Technical concepts as the same as tasks. Technical concepts are bad examples of game pillars. Of course, we have to take in mind technical resources when we are designing, but making this a game pillar will affect our game design in a bad way. Finally, there are also some sayings that every game designer have to know as toxic. Again, this English is not the best. So, repetitive. Gameplay time, gameplay quality, more content equals more cool. Complex, greater than simple. Saturated screen with graphical user interface. This works in other games. Let's try the same without thinking about it. Fill content, yeah. More or less agree. Things to take into account for not spoiling our game. Although we have elected our pillar design games, we must take into account that in every game development, the design is changing continually, and we will make changes and additions during this process, adding mechanics, deleting items. So we must take some things into account. Loyalty. If we aren't loyal to the game pillars, we could turn aside the original design. We always must think about what we set at first. And that's definitely a good point. You know, there has to be some sort of threshold where, like, if you're making so many conscious design decisions that are going explicitly against a pillar, then maybe either the pillar is wrong or your game director doesn't know what they're doing or doesn't care, or because, like, at that point, like, if multiple designs are being approved and implemented and, you know, fulfilled that don't explicitly meet at least one game pillar, then that, I believe, is the fault of the game director or the game design director, whoever it may be, because they're the ones that are supposed to hold these pillars in place and use them as a guideline to guide other designers in how they should be implementing and designing potential features. So if there's a mismatch of getting involved with these approved things, then, you know, there's a leadership problem. And there could be even parts where, like, maybe a design director doesn't even have time to approve things, and so designers just push things through thinking it's fine, and maybe they're not holding each other accountable, or they're just unaware, like how I was in some cases, what the design pillars are. They weren't easily accessible, or it was so unclear that you thought, yeah, this works, no need to even question it, kind of thing. So the next thing, enough is good. If we make too many changes in our design, we will not be able to perform the game. We always must consider the means and the time that we have. Relevance, all you put in the game has to be relevant. Adding a new concept just because it's cool is usually a bad idea. Don't mess up something that works. If you create a game based in existing game pillars and you're going to add or change one of them, you can also spoil the gameplay, unbalance, or hurt existing functional mechanics, for example. Okay, so is this saying, like, you have a working set of features and you have some content that is working and that you like? Is it saying then don't introduce a game pillar that explicitly contradicts or, you know, puts a hole into the gameplay that you've already established? I feel like that's a no-brainer. But maybe that's happened. Ask ourselves two questions. This mechanic idea, does this fit with the design? It satisfies some of our game pillars. If the answer is no, we must discard it, the idea, as much as we like it. So yeah. So it has to have at least, like, I guess one is the bare minimum, but the more, obviously, the better, because it's going to be more consistent with the overall design. So I think that's also kind of like a no-brainer kind of situation. Ooh, they have an example of Diablo 3's 7 design pillars. Okay, I feel like all these links are like broken. Okay, so there is something, just a definition. Not very useful. Dev, game design pillars. Let's give ourselves some like homework and things to read into next time, because I definitely want to research more. There's also a game design document template, 1 page, super easy. Not secure, we're not gonna do that. Okay, just as a frame of reference, we'll include that. Yeah, since we have 30 minutes left, let's see. Game design pillars. Is there any famous ones? Examples of game pillars. So Paradox Interactive they have some videos. Let's just add all these links so we can look at it later. I think this will be an interesting watch. Maybe something to watch together next time, potentially. Oh yeah, no problem. Thanks a lot. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you later. But yeah, I think now that's a good time to wrap up that. So I want to kind of talk a little bit about Celico. I want to put together a review for Celico, just for my own kind of practice of like game design analysis and things that I liked, what I didn't like, what I think was cool. Because I had just recently beat the first chapter. They'll release the second chapter at some point. Can I resume the campaign? Is it gonna drop me off at a specific spot? Yeah. Because they got like a lot of interesting things in this game. Like the mini map is cool. You know, they have these data logs, which are pretty cool. They have a lot of hidden secrets and stuff, I think, which is really cool. Like, it kind of encourages that play of like reading through these things to get a better idea of what the story is. Obviously, I have a lot of unread logs and stuff like that. Information. They have also information on railguns and stuff. Gives you information about damage, which I didn't even realize. Which I think is pretty cool, now that I'm kind of reading through it. And, you know, I'm going to have to do, like, so in my first playthrough, I don't know if I'm going to play through it again until, like, chapter 2. But, you know, there's a lot of stuff that, like, I didn't engage with. Because, yeah, they got objectives, milestones, a lot of stuff there. Statistics, which is really cool. A lot of like kind of things you can track for yourself. There's also, you know, burger flipper. I think there's an achievement if you flip like 1,000 burgers. So I don't know if I want to do that on stream at the moment. But maybe I can just do this while, like, as like a fidget spinner to kind of just talk about what I think about Celico, and maybe I can write these points down. But, you know, as a first-person shooter, I thought it was really, really, really good. The gunplay was satisfying. Like, each weapon, you know, has a nice crunchy sound. I don't know how well you guys can hear things, but reloading is really cool. You know, shotgun stuff, really interesting. They have grenades, different types of grenades, like the frag grenade and ice grenade, landmines. I'm not sure if there's more. You know, you can submachine gun, dual wield them if you want. You can get weapon parts for upgrades. Like each weapon feels nice. Like sniper, for example, feels really good too. You have like also improvements that you can make, like upgrades to the thing, to the weapons. You can go. I don't know where I can. Can I load a game? Do I have like a safe room? You'd think I'd have like a safe room save somewhere. Unless like I'm constantly like overriding. Okay, weapon room. Old level. Okay, so I guess I don't. I don't know where the weapon room is. Oh Lord. But yeah. I did a lot of saving at a certain point. Like, I wonder if there's like a... Is there like a weapon room somewhere in here? I don't see one. But anyway, like, you know, you have a weapon room, you can upgrade your different weapons using the weapon parts. And you can also like kind of upgrade like the level that you can do. Which I think is interesting. Like by default, you know, the sniper scope goes this far, but then you can get an upgrade which lets you zoom in twice. You know, there's only limited instances. Like there's some levels where using a sniper doesn't really make sense. You know, they have when they introduced the sniper, it was a very explicit like, okay, this is a sniper level, very long lines of sights, and things like that. It also gives you interesting ways to play the game. Let's see if I could try to find the option. I think it's when you start a new game. So yeah, you can do different difficulties. Bonus modes, the amount of combat is greatly reduced. Celico must fall. This is humanity never stood a chance, blah blah. So basically, if you can... So this is like the super hard mode. You can add mutators apparently. So I think that's cool. I haven't really done that. So yeah, weapon kits, item scarcity, lower like ways to heal or get armor. So I have I played with rifle reset. I think I picked commander, if I remember right. And yeah, they have some gameplay options like your typical stuff, video and graphics. You know, they also have a lot of you know, interesting interactions with the environments. Like a lot of the environments are like pseudo interactable. You can like throw trash at a trash can, things kind of explode. Interesting art style, like the vectorized Doom style from like the 90s. Like how do I melee? I forget already. That was Q. Yeah, okay. So you can kind of destroy a lot of stuff, which I think is nice. You can move a lot of stuff, I think, which was really nice. It just gives the world some level of interactivity, which is cool. And it's cool that they were able to pull this off with this technology. Like, this engine is mad old. Obviously, they had to do updates to the engine and stuff like that. And I think it would be interesting to see if we can find the design pillars for Celico. Because, like, to me, honestly, you know, weapon variety, I feel like that would be a pillar. I feel like a pillar would also be... I don't know if this would be an explicit pillar, but like an homage to old first-person shooters. You got a lot of the feelings of older first-person shooters, things from the days of Doom, even some games like Perfect Dark from the N64, GoldenEye. You get a lot of the stuff from, especially like things like Half-Life 2 or Half-Life, because they have some puzzles in this game as well. It's more of like environment puzzles, like you gotta move a barrel somewhere so that you can access a vent, go through the vent, and kind of navigate and continue onwards. They have one section, I think I can load. I think I saw like the save for it somewhere. Yeah, here. There's like an explicit part where you have to like drag this barrel all across the level, and hopefully I won't get attacked by enemies. I think they spawn based on where the barrel is, but essentially you have to drag that barrel all the way to here. You gotta put one here, and then you have this barrel and you gotta like push it here. And like put it onto the other pressure pad so that a door unlocks, for example. And like those kind of puzzles, I think are, you know, not super interesting. There's other cases where like in order to like find a room, you had to find like a button that was kind of hidden. So it didn't really help you. It didn't help you, I guess, is the way to say it. Like there was no hand holding. Which on one hand, no pun intended, on one hand is nice. It's kind of refreshing. You have to solve your own puzzles and stuff like that. But on the other side, it kind of led into a lot of frustration points where like I didn't know where to go. But you know, eventually I realized what it was, but it wasn't really a positive eureka moment. It was more of like a, oh really, like how the hell was I supposed to like know this kind of realization? And after the first few times where it's like I don't know where to go, that's when I sort of started relying more and more on like moving random barrels and stuff like that, and like trying to like look at every nook and cranny. They do have like a nice mini map where it'll show you moving and you can like rotate and move around and kind of navigate and see, and they have like the footsteps of where you've been. I don't know what the time is for that. It looks like you can also do console commands. I don't know. Can you do God? So do I have capitalization? So as it treats. Okay, so you can turn these on and off. So that's, you know, I'm discovering more and more stuff. And it's cool. Like, so the rolling dice for 1, rolling dice for 10, rolling dice for 2. I don't know really what that means. It does some interesting stuff there. So, you know, you get this old school feeling too. You get like the DOS kind of command lines and stuff. Very also reminding me of Unreal Engine. You can, you know, type in God and everything like that. And, you know, you have your typical health and over health and armor and over armor mechanics. You have your melee. You have some power-ups that will like increase your melee strength and I think recoil. You have some enemy variation. You have your typical soldiers. You have some shielded soldiers. You have some flying enemies. If you don't really care about spoilers, you know, the story of this game, I didn't really follow too easily. Like, the story was mostly given to you through like these data access things. Let's see if I can load into this. But essentially through these data pads and these personnels, you kind of get a sense of what's going on. Like, Celico is this either space station or moon that is meant to simulate Earth. It has like a AI-driven system throughout the whole place that controls things like the sky, that simulates day-night cycles, kind of controls the power, electricity, stuff like that. And then from what I can gather, Celico was invaded by some force, and I don't understand why. I don't know if these soldiers that you're fighting throughout the game are the aliens that have invaded, or if it's different than that. Like, I will need to read through the data logs to figure out exactly what the story is. And then, yeah, just, you know, if no one cares about spoilers, I could talk about one other. Actually, there's other enemy types that's not spoiler territory, but let me know if you don't want to hear spoilers for anything else. You have these juggernauts, are these huge enemies that are mostly bullet sponges, and they do a shit ton of damage when you get hit by them, and they can like boost towards you, and they're slower moving until they kind of jetpack towards you. They're the biggest threat. And most enemies have the same kind of... There's other enemy types that use like energy plasma rifles that do a lot of damage. Those hurt. Some have shields that you have to kind of fire through. And then you have some like bugs that crawl in the ground, like robotic bugs. You have to shoot those or they'll explode on contact. Flying drones, flying things. Sometimes, yeah, jetpack enemies, which are kind of annoying. So there's some enemy variety, and I'm assuming the enemy variety is supposed to guide which weapons you use against them. But like, I chose the difficulty which basically resets my weapons every level, because like throughout the level you will find and collect these different types of weapons, and you can upgrade these weapons and everything like that. I chose the path where my weapon upgrades are preserved, but I don't have access to these weapons at the beginning of each level. Like, I only have access to fists and a rifle, and as not this rifle, this number 4, this rifle. So I start with this and limited, like, you know, only 30 ammo or something like that. It was like I believe it was like the recommended challenge for people who've played first-person shooters before. So I kind of just went down that kind of route. But yeah, the levels are, you know, the level design is interesting. You know, there's a lot of nooks and crannies, a lot of different places to explore. They have a lot of secrets that you can find, which is really cool. Again, very much of an homage to like these old games that have different types of secrets, things you can find, some backtracking to like unlock some certain things to get you more upgrades, just small fun little perks and stuff like that, which I think is cool. Not something I always intentionally engage with. I'm not that kind of person. Like, I happen to just like exploring the environment, and whatever I might find, I'll find, but I'm not explicitly going after finding all the secrets, getting all the upgrades and stuff like that. But overall, it's good. The level design does lack, I guess, variety. You know, it's hard to say what kind of variety you can have in your level design. Like, they have you know, your typical tight corridors, more open spaces, and even outdoor open spaces, but there's nothing outside of that. Like, when you look at games like with Halo 1 even, you know, you have a bigger space to explore, and it requires you to use, like, you can use vehicles, for example, and that kind of changes the gameplay a little bit. But honestly, if they don't want to support vehicles, so be it. But just for spoilers, when you get to this point, there's this huge mech. So I'm assuming in chapter 2 there will be a mech you can control, and that will kind of satisfy that kind of desire, because this is technically, I guess, an incomplete game. I don't know if it's in beta or not. But they'll give you like a free chapter if you pay. I think, yeah, if you pay for the game, you'll like get access to the free chapter, which is nice. But also, it should be expected. You got an unfinished game in that regard, which I believe is an unfinished game. We can look at the Steam page. But yeah, very positive. Yeah, early access game. Why early access? Maybe we can look at some of the reviews. So Doom Engine in 2024, more fun than Unreal Engine 5.4. Fair. Hands down, one of the best shooters, not just the boomer shooter on the market. How can you make a game look this good on GZ Doom? Yeah, that's like this old ass engine. Celico has everything. So different map designs for every type of firefight. I guess that's fair. Like I said, you have your tight corridors, you have your kind of mid-space kind of sections where you can have pseudo long distance fights, something for rifles, maybe a sniper if you don't want to zoom in all the way. And then you have like those long distance sections where you have those long lines of sight, where you can have these kind of firefights. Fast paced and engaging, I would agree with. Satisfying gunplay and an arsenal of weapons, yes. Secrets, yes. Cool Easter egg stuff, yes. So I'm excited for chapter 2. So I definitely agree with most what they said. Again, story is something I'm not sure about. Like, again, it's all through. Maybe it's just something. If you want to engage into the story, you can through these data logs. Not something that's just thrust upon you in order to progress the story forward and for you to have a reason to go from one area to the next. But yeah, that's something, I like story. Maybe it's just my fault for not engaging with the data pads, because I don't want to really be reading, especially in a game that's supposed to be high adrenaline like this. To stop and read a bunch of data pads with information might be kind of a weird expectation to have. But yeah, audio design is also really good. Music is also really, really good. It really gives the feeling of Doom, like old, I would say more akin to the new series of Doom, so Doom Eternal and stuff like that. Because like when you get into a firefight, it gets very, very, very intense with the music. I'm not sure how much audio you'll be able to hear. Hold on. There you go. All right, hold on. Why is it saying started stream? Stream is starting. Was that showing it the whole time? Like when I show Celico, we get stream is starting. Okay, now you guys got it. That's weird. So load. Like you get a sense of the music from like even the main menu. But for example, let me load into this section. I'll start pushing this thing. Some guy should pop out. Like it's a very sci-fi, fits the theme as it should. It just adds to the entire atmosphere. And I think it might change per level. I'm not 100% sure on that, but yeah. Music, audio stuff, super good, I think. Yeah, that's a good point. Like datapad should be a way for engaging in the nuances and the subtleties of the story, but not the main story points. But again, some people might just want to play a fun shooter and not give a shit about the story, and this gives an option for them to do that. So overall, I think it's a really, 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 really good game. I want to make a comprehensive, written review and post it on my Discord in one of the forum sections. So I want to slowly work on that in my free time, because I want to start doing that for like all the games I'm completing moving forward, because I think that'll help me kind of grow as a game developer, game designer, to kind of be able to assess the games that I'm playing and maybe things that I like, things I didn't like. Like for example, at least from my playthrough, having the variety of weapons was nice, but I never really saw a reason to use a certain weapon. Like there's obvious points where you need to use a certain weapon. Like you need to use a sniper when there's like long lines of sights in this introductory area where you're shown the sniper for the first time. You need to snipe in order to get rid of the enemy. Otherwise, he's gonna, like, I died a few times just by wandering and you got hit by it. So yeah, you gotta use the sniper there, but there's no explicit design around, and I guess enemy interactions or a reason for enemies to use a weapon against a certain type of enemy, which I kind of understand why. Like if you go through a playthrough where your weapons reset every map, you don't have access to certain weapons, and so if the level design or the encounter design doesn't change or update to match that choice, then that's a potential problem. So say you have a weapon, like say you have an enemy that's designed that has a bunch of armor, and the armor can only be destroyed with a certain type of weapon, like a plasma rifle or something. You can't have that enemy appear at the beginning of any given level if you have this option set up where your weapons reset. If you only have the normal, normal rifle, just, non-plasmic rounds, whatever the normal ammunition is called, then you can't really defeat this enemy effectively or at all. So I can see why they didn't do that, and it makes sense, I believe, but I feel like there should be some sort of reason to be using an enemy, using a certain type of weapon against a certain type of enemy, even if it just means it's more effective. So using that same kind of thing, like you have these shielded enemies, maybe it is the case where if you use a plasma rifle thing against the shield, it'll destroy faster. I'm not sure. I just kept shooting it, and the shield eventually got destroyed anyway, and I didn't really care about ammo or preserving ammo, because also ammo was pretty abundant. So I think they just kind of made a baseline suite of enemies that could just do a basic interaction with all the different weapon types on any type of difficulty with any type of modifiers on, just to satisfy all those kind of requirements. So I get it. Other shooters, I can't really... There's some cases where you see this kind of interaction with enemies, like Halo, for example. You have these elites, and they have this shield, like not like a shield, but like a plasma shield. So if you're shooting them with a kinetic bullet or something, you see like the distortion of the shield. You're still doing damage, but the shield has to be destroyed first before you actually do some sort of damage to the elite. But then you have this plasma rifle, the one you can charge. So if you do like a full charge and shoot the elite with it, it completely depletes that shield, and you could just kind of headshot them once with like a kinetic battle rifle or something like that. So there is some evidence of that kind of gunplay in some cases, such as Halo. So it would have been interesting to see that here, but I would also argue that Halo's gunplay is a little slower than this. This is more like a Twitch kind of shooter. So I can kind of see where they wouldn't want you to find a reason to be like, okay, let me first equip the plasma rifle thing to destroy this, then switch back to something else. Like, I get it. Halo has more of like, you know, a dichotomy of weapons. You have usually just 2 weapons and a grenade. So it's more simple for you to say, okay, this is the strategy I'm going for. I can switch between these 2 weapons and that's it. But when you have a suite of like 8 to 10 weapons, I think, something like that, it's going to be a hard ask to say like, oh, it's this enemy type, let me switch to this weapon. Hopefully I have ammo for it and kind of maneuver it from there. But again, if it doesn't mean it has to be the solution. Like, you cannot defeat this enemy without doing this. It just makes it easier and you can kind of strategize around that. So yeah, I'll kind of do more of a write-up later with these kind of points in mind. I think that'll be a lot of fun. Maybe we can also look into potentially the design pillars for this game. I think that'll be interesting to do. But that's where I'm going to end the stream for tonight. I hope you like this format. You know, we did a bit of designing. I would talk about game design pillars and talk about Celico in the review. I'd like to do more of these open design discussions and streams. Obviously, with Project Echo, we're still doing a lot of the open design and everything like that. So we're going to be doing this for a while, jumping a little bit into Godot as we see fit when we try to start prototyping. Because again, there's going to be a certain point where like, okay, I've over-designed. I need to figure some stuff out first. And I think that can come in once we figure out our design pillars and maybe do like a 1-pager for this like sound screen mechanic, and then we can kind of prototype that. And I think that'll be a good kind of timeline that we'll have. So I hope you like this format. For anybody who's watching who isn't following me here on Twitch, a follow would be much appreciated. We'll most likely stream again on Thursday, and then we'll try to stream on Sunday or something like that. It's only a few times a week I could do this. So thanks again for watching, everybody, and I'll see you soon.